So The Invite is the third film directed by Olivia Wilde, third feature film. And she's had one of the more interesting filmographies for a director. Her first feature film being Booksmart, which is a coming-of-age comedy about two gals at the end of their graduation, which I really liked. I thought it was very good. A good time. And then a few years ago, her second feature film being Don't Worry, Darling, which just sucked. Like, it was a thriller, but a bad one. It just wasn't very good. And The Invite is her newest film. It's a 2026 release. And it's unlike any of those two films either. And I was intrigued. I didn't see the trailer, but I assumed what the film was about in the sense of, like, it's about, like, two couples set in one apartment and they talk. And that's kind of what I knew about. And that is what the film is. And I really, 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 really like this film. This is one of the more interesting films for me in terms of my own personal, like, viewing experience with it. But first of all, what I'll talk about in terms of what I really liked about this film. I think the film is very well made. It's very, in terms of a visual and audible experience. It is dangerously close to being maybe style over substance, but I feel like there's enough substance in this film, and the style isn't so stylistic. The film, I believe it's shot on film. If it's not, it looks like it is. So it's got that, like, aesthetic to it, and it's all framed very interestingly. It's not just a simple shot reverse shots. There's some really nice moments of framing the actors dead center in frame with a lot of sides and headspace to indicate the isolation and awkwardness. And also some fun things like frame within a frame, like whether it be like if we're shooting, like the camera is shooting through a window, and the window frame itself is separating characters, or if we're like shooting like at a like there's just a lot of nice composition in it. Again, nothing too mental. It's not like any like the movement isn't insane. It's not flashy or showy, but it's very stylistically shot. Again, as I said, it looks like it was shot on film. The film, the cinematographer is Adam Newport Berra, who previous experiences, he shot some episodes of the first season Euphoria. He shot, what did he shoot? He shot The Studio, which is the Seth Rogen link here. He also shot The Last Black Man of San Francisco. He shot 2 episodes of The Bear, which included the very first episode, and Honeydew, the Copenhagen episode, which are 2 gorgeous-looking episodes. So he's a very talented cinematographer, and this film shows it as well. He clearly knew what he was doing, and he knew I think the way the film was shot, knew what the film was about. Like, it wasn't trying to make it more. Like, the film was about, again, 4 people in one location talking. And also, you don't want to make it look boring, but also you don't want to take away from the performances, and the cinematography does not take away from the performances. I'll get to that in a moment. Another thing that No, you know what? I'll just go and talk about the performances now. They're great. They're really good. I'm a big Seth Rogen fan. I have been for a long time now. And one thing that, like, I feel like he hasn't got, like, the appreciation for is actually how good of a dramatic actor he can be. I've thought that since Steve Jobs, really. And although he can be a funny character in films, like even in a drama film, he can maybe be the funnier character. He is still good. You know, oddly enough, he's actually a very real actor. A lot of his performances, whether it be comedy and dramas, don't actually change, but it's just the context of which they fall under. And whether it be like a goofy comedy, his performance fits, like his acting style fits in a goofy comedy. But when it's like a drama, his performance, the exact same kind of performance, fits within a drama as well. And with The Invite, it's like a comedy drama. As I said, like the film's not shot like a yuck comedy. It is, it's quite a prestigely shot film. But the film it's a comedy drama, and Seth Rogen's really good in it. If anything, Olivia Wilde was a funny one. I think Olivia Wilde, for me, at first, I'm like, is she going, like, in terms of performances, is she going too much? I don't know. I at first I was like, is she too extra? Never distracting. Never like, whoa, I feel like she's in the wrong film, which would have been ironic considering she's directing the film. And if she was out of place in terms of performance, it's like, what are you doing? She wasn't out of place. But at first, I'm like, okay, she's given a lot. But it was never to like an unnecessary level. And I think by the end of the film, the way she was behaving for the entirety of the film made sense towards the end. And Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz are really good as well. I think, there's not much really to say about them in terms of like specifics. I just think they're really good actors and they do really good individually. And all four of them together is really fun. I was not bored once by this. Again, I'm also a sucker for one location films. I think like one of the greatest films ever, maybe the greatest film ever, is 12 Angry Men. I also love what's another like Boiling Point. There's loads of like one location films that I'm a sucker for, but also I could acknowledge that like if you don't do it right, it can be very boring. But a lot of the times I find it quite captivating. Like for like also like Scenes from a Marriage, both versions, Bergman and HBO. Both versions are very good. And I think this falls into my, if you have like, it doesn't even necessarily be a compelling concept, because the concept of this film is just like Olivia. I guess there is a compelling concept. It's a very realistic, compelling concept in the sense of Olivia Wilde, like Seth Rogen comes back home. You can already immediately tell that there's like kind of friction between the two of them anyway. And Olivia Wilde is like, well, first Seth Rogen's like, why is there like food and shit here? And Olivia Wilde's like, well, our neighbors are coming. And he's like, you what? Okay, immediately. It's like Olivia Wilde invited their upstairs neighbors. Seth Rogen doesn't want them, doesn't really vibe with them. And the drama in this film is kind of like dropped in of like Seth Rogen's like, I'm okay if they're coming, then I'm going to confront them about how loud of sex they have. And then Olivia was like, you do not do that. He goes, I'm going to do it. So immediately that's the conflict. That's like the suspense of the film. And so like that as a premise is fun. It's fun but also intense, like in a very like really like interesting way. Again, the film almost has like, the film could have very well have not known what tone it was, but it finds that line so perfectly of being funny but also kind of dramatic, but neither one. It's always just down the middle. It kind of just feels realistic, but not realistic. It feels like what it's, because it's not mundane. It's not a slice of life, but it is very like it's neither hugely dramatic or hugely comedic. It's all kind of like, it's dramatic but also comedic, and it's kind of a really great like tone to sit through for like, how long is the film? Because it's like, is it like half an hour, an hour and a half? It's an hour and 47, so it's close to 2 hours. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't bored once. And so apart from like the premise being really fun and interesting, the tone of it being really cool, the performances are really like they all bounce off each other very well. Each one individual, each one of the characters individually can go away, do what. So, and it does happen. There's instances where the film starts and it's Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde. And then Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz come in, and it's the four of them. And then for a while, it's just the four of them, and the tension's still a bit, I don't know. And then Seth Rogen's like, I'm going to go for a joint. And then Penelope Cruz says, can I join you? So then Seth Rogen and Penelope Cruz go off, and then we have Ed Norton and Olivia Wilde off in another scene. And then we cut back to it, very well edited as well. It's a very fascinating, not fascinating. I need to stop overusing that word. It's a very nice way of editing it. So, but then Seth Rogen and Penelope Cruz have an interesting scene together, and Edward Norton and Olivia Wilde have an interesting sequence together. So all these characters are all like can be separate and talk one-on-one, and it's going to equate to a very interesting scene. And I think that's credit to everything. That's credit to the actors. That's credit to Olivia Wilde as the director. And that's credit to the screenplay. Olivia Wilde does not write her screenplays. She's never written a feature film. She takes a script. And this one was written by Rashida Jones and is it Will McCormack? While I've got my phone out, I'll fact check that. It is Will McCormack, who's and the film is not original content. It's a remake from a film called Sentimental by Seskgay. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I apologize if that's the incorrect pronunciation. So, but Will McCormack and Rashida Jones, the screenplay of this is very good as well. And for a good chunk, it's not like... And the fault that all these films can fall under is like... Since it is just people talking in one location, a lot of the time, writers, and myself included, have fallen into this trap when writing. Of like, right, how do I make this interesting? Let's just get one of the characters to start spewing something randomly philosophical. So we can warrant being a film and try to be deep. This film doesn't try to be deep. This film is certainly not like up its own or anything. Okay, by the way, I think from this point on, I'm going to talk anything remotely spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Invite, leave. But apparently this was revealed in the first poster of the film, which is strange. I'm so glad I didn't know this bit about the film, but I'm talking spoilers. When we get to the point of when when Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz reveal that they are a part of like sex parties and they're very, and that's what they do. And there's like a good chunk of the film of when Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz are explaining what's involved in their sex parties, and Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde are curious and asking questions, but that just felt so like a legit conversation that would be had if that situation were to happen. And it's not trying to be like let me wax lyric, let me monologue about being sex positive. It's so matter of fact, but it is a fascinating conversation that is happening in front of us, which eventually leads to the fact that Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz were like, we want to include you guys within our sex parties, like basically inviting them to a foursome, which is a really fun use on the title of the film. Obviously, the invite initially being the fact that Olivia Wilde invited the neighbours to their apartment, but the actual invite that's quite integral to the film is Edward Norton and Penelope Cruz's invite to the other couple to be a part of a foursome. And this point of the film is so like, it's not tense. The film could have very well have been like awkward. Like there's a lot of films like this, like some, and I love them, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That's just like, oh, it's cringy, it's awkward, you get nervous. There's that level of tension. There's tension in this film, but never enough to where I'm like, oh, no, I'm awkward. I'm almost like, oh, this is fun. I'm buckled in. What wherever this film's going to take me, I'm going to be in for it. And when the point of when they invite them to be a part of like the a foursome, you can see both Olivia Wilde. They're both so good in terms of their acting in this scene, where Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen are like look at each other, and you can both tell them like they're both individual. Like, yes, I definitely want to do this, but I don't want to be the first one to say it in case you don't want to do it and you'll kick off. And they're both just kind of like, it's so good. And there's like the bit, and the bit that made me howl, it's when they agreed, like, okay, instead of like going together, like all four of them together, they'll both try it separate, like just switch. So Penelope Cruz is like, right, me and you, Joe, we can go together, and then Hawk and Angela can go together. And then as they split off, there's a point of like where Edward Norton hands Seth Rogen a condom, and they both hold the condoms, and they cheers with they cheers condoms together, and that just there's something about that just got me chuckling. And there's several little moments like that. I can't think of but there's other moments in this film that are just so small, or like of Seth Rogen's delivery, that just got me proper like in like my sense of humor. And with all that being said, and obviously this, so for a judge, it's like, okay, this is fun, this is interesting. By the end of it, I am legit invested in when Seth Rogen, he's just hurt his back, the mood is immediately ruined. And then we're like in this, before I get to that, but like I feel like this film is almost one of the better depictions of sex in film, even though there isn't like a sex scene in it, but like the actual unsexiness of sex. It's like almost like it's shown like, yeah, like there is a sensuality in it, but there is also a lot of awkwardness and a lot of like nerves in it. Like there's these Olivia Wilde and Edward Norton go in the kitchen, and Olivia Wilde's like, let me just and he's like, Edward Norton's just trying to be like, let's just go for it, and she's like, yeah, let me just and then like Seth Rogen is just kind of like stood, and Penelope Cruz is like taking off her top, and it's a very sensual like way it's shot, and it's it's all close up, and we're like seeing Penelope Cruz's face, and then we pan down and we're seeing her cleavage, and it's all it's all very sexy, and then we just cut to Seth Rogen, again a close up of Seth Rogen just fully clothed, like just almost frozen, and all he can say is like, "You're really hot." It's like that's just. Or like, and the bit that I like really thought like, oh, that like feels like very real, is like when Edward Norton is like, Olivia Wilde and Edward Norton are kissing, and then Norton goes like, "What do you want me to do?" And she's like, "Can you get?" And she doesn't know what to say, and it's like just so like, yes, there is something like sensual going on here, but there's also like, I don't know how to. Yeah. It almost like I never once felt like, ooh, about like the sexual moments in this film. I never once felt awkward, but I felt like this is one of the more realistic depictions of sex that I've seen in anything. But back to like towards the end, but by the time when like the mood's ruined, everything's kicking off again, we're back to like Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen arguing, and there's other like tensions and shit, and there's like the point of when like Penelope Cruz goes like, "When have you ever liked each other?" And Olivia Wilde explains like the story of how like her and Seth Rogen first met, and it's a genuine like, and in that moment like, oh, I can see these two people once being in love, and I can see these two people once being like young sweethearts kind of thing. In that story, it's like, this is nice. And then with her Cohen being like, and then he decided to be miserable, and then that also, and then I went from being like, oh, I can understand her point of view. And then he decided to be miserable, and then Seth Rogen be like, I decided to be miserable. I'm like, I can see his point of view now, and he goes through his thing where it's like, I'm in a dead end job. I feel like I don't feel like I've done anything. Of course I'm miserable. Let me be miserable. Which then him saying, let me be miserable, let me be unhappy. I can then go, well, you shouldn't want to sit there and Olivia Wilde being like, you've got a daughter, you've got a good job, you've got like good income, blah blah. It's like, yeah, there's all sorts of things here. And again, in that brief like chunk, I'm like, that's one of the more like, well, I think just as a whole, like I like throughout the entirety of the film, and especially towards the end, and especially like the very last bit of the film of when like Olivia Wilde and Seth Rogen go like, they agree like, yeah, Olivia Wilde's like, I'm going to bed, and he's like, yeah, should I sleep in my office? And she goes, sure, because they basically agreed we should just break up, we should divorce. And then he finally starts playing his piano for the first time in a long time, and then she joins him, and there's that gorgeous shot, which I just think's like the frame of the film. The very last frame is that is the film, in my opinion. Like, that's the point of this film. So from like the beginning all the way up until the end is what I'm like. That might be one of the more like genuine examples of like a long-term relationship, where I did see genuine love and joy and banter with Seth Rogen and Olivia Wilde, but you could also tell, like, well, there's a coldness there, there's a distance, and it's all feels real, it all feels genuine in this kind of hyper depiction of reality in a sense. And another thing that I wanted to point, like, what made the film feel like so like, because I wasn't in love with the film from the very beginning, but by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I think I love this film. I think this film is right for me. I can't really think of a negative, because any qualms I had with the film, like, as I said, like, I wasn't sure about Olivia Wilde's performance. I wasn't sure about the tone of the film, but by the end of the film, like, no, all that went away, and I'm like, I get it. And the final shot, I'm like, oh, that's where this film sits with me. The feelings I got from watching the very ending, I'm like, okay, that's what this film is to me. And the whole film just felt a bit like jazz, in the sense of, like, it's so well done in the sense of, like, there's a lot of talk and a lot of dialogue, but there's a lot of overlapping dialogue, and there's a lot of times where there's a bunch of people talking over each other, and then there's the music as well that is very good. Devonte Hines, I believe, is the composer of this film, and there's a lot of music through, and it, like, there's, so you're hearing loads of dialogue going over each other. You're hearing music. You're seeing a lot of cuts and edit. There's a frantic energy of this film without being stressful. It's almost like cut like a Safdie film. Like, the film's almost presented like a Safdie Brothers film, but without the, like, god-awful tension, without the dreadful tension of the film. And that's how and it's not a jazz score, but, like, the whole, like, rhythm of the film feels so, like, kinetic and energetic, like a jazz track. But yeah, no, I really liked it. It's not a film that's like, oh, this really cut deep with me. But when the film worked for me, it really worked for me. And yeah, that's my thoughts on The Invite. What do you think of The Invite? Comment below. Let me know. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like and share. Make sure to subscribe to the Crazy Stupid Kino YouTube channel for more reviews. Link is in the description below for the Crazy Stupid Kino Instagram page, as well as my own Instagram page and the Letterboxd account. You can check out more videos and subscribe to the side here. And until next time, I shall see you later.